I got some live. How you guys doing? How you guys doing? I want to do a rant that I haven't completely covered before. I want to rant about my music mentors that I've had. Not my teacher. I've talked about him in that class I took in introduction to music theory in college, but just mentors I've had in music and guitar and what they said and all that. So growing up, I took lessons from Tom Franks from 1982 to 1984. That was ages 15 to 17 for me. And I had basically three mentors that just taught me for free, once in a while. I had DJ Alverson, who's still alive, and he's like a pseudo mentor. I had Chris Bryan, and he was a guitar player, is a guitar player. Then I had Chris Bryan Chapman, was a bass player, is a bass player. He unfriended me because I didn't know I told him I didn't know whether computers have hard drives or not. And he thought I'm either lying and therefore not a friend, or I'm stupid and therefore not worthy of being a friend. I just didn't even know I honestly didn't know if computers had hard drives. Doesn't mean I'm stupid or lying to him. And then the best mentor I had was John Harrelson. And he died like 15 years ago or something. So, and he was a guitar player. So I'm just going to go over what they taught me and some things. John Harrelson, the best one. I'd hang around the store on Terror Music in like the late 80s, like 1988. In fact, that's where I got my rap pedal that I had up until recently at Ontario Music. And John Harrelson had autographs of Adrian Vandenberg on his thing, and all kinds of people that actually didn't just sign their name, but signed to John Harrelson, Master of Instruments, Adrian Vandenberg. It wasn't just his name in a picture like most people would get. They actually would comment about him, I had to see actually a comment from Adrian Vandenberg to John Harrelson in the store, just right there, signed Adrian Vandenberg from Whitesnake. That's cool. And John would always mutter things, like he would say things about music, and I have a photographic memory, so I still remember them to this day. He said, first of all, in blues you have major and minor at the same time. That's a very profound thing, he said. He was saying that in 1988. Blues is mainly Dorian and Mixolydian, and basically Dorian and Mixolydian are the same scale, except that Mixolydian has a major third and Dorian has a minor third. So if you play them side by side or over the same root, you get a scale that has a major third and a minor third. And since you can interchange them, it's major and minor at the same time. Well said, John. And he also said, blues rarely has a flat six. Now, that was very wise also. If you think about it, there's four modes that have a major six, which is not a flat six, just a major six, and that's Lydian, Ionian, Mixolydian, and Dorian. And those are all modes that that are either blues modes like Dorian and Mixolydian, or jazz modes like Ionian and Lydian. And there's some bleed over between jazz and blues. They both jazz kind of borrow from blues and mix it with classical in some fashion when we're looking at jazz. But then the three modes have the flat six, and that's the Aeolian mode, Phrygian mode, and Locrian mode. And you just don't really hear that over blues. That's more of a heavy metal sound. You wouldn't really play Aeolian with a flat six, because Aeolian does have a flat six, over blues. It just wouldn't sound right. And Phrygian has a flat six. It wouldn't sound right over blues. That's more of a neoclassical shredding heavy metal thing. And then Locrian has a flat six, and that doesn't work over blues. That's more of a heavy metal Metallica type sound. So he was right about that. And then he said, it's funny, but all Bach really did was diminished 7 to 1 minor. That's all Bach did. Johann Sebastian Bach. That's very wise also. He's basically saying Bach mainly played minor scales, or at least a lot of it was minor scales, because they exist, and Bach was I have a feeling he played a lot of minor stuff. And the main minor scale is the harmonic minor scale. And a harmonic minor scale has 7 notes that can be divided into 4 and 3 notes, where 4 notes is a diminished 7th arpeggio on the leading tone degree. That's 4 notes, and then the other 3 notes are the minor triad on the tonic degree, and that those literally make up the 7 notes of a harmonic minor scale in short fashion. In other words, if you have C harmonic minor, you can break that down to B diminished 7th and C minor triad. So wisely said by John that. So when you play a minor scale, you're really, when we're looking at that, is you're just playing 7 diminished 7, or diminished 7th on the leading tone to tonic minor or 1 minor. And John basically muttered that that's all Bach did. Very wise thing to say. Anyway, now let's go to DJ Alverson. He said, I came to him in 1988 and I said, man, I want to learn theory. He goes, nah, don't do it. Don't make it this hard thing. The trumpeter from Chicago, or that's how it turned out to be, has a class that he teaches, and he says to the class, analysis is paralysis, and he's right. And if you just thinking too much is just going to clog up your playing and blah blah blah. In other words, he discouraged me from doing music theory, which is a crock of crap. I'm glad I did do it. I made me the musician I am today. I would be different if I didn't. If I'd have taken his advice, I would be a different Jimmie, and I'm glad I'm not. So that's bad advice. Maybe it helps. Maybe it's advice he does, but he has to consider the source, consider the room, and I don't know. I didn't take the advice. Put it that way. And he once said to me, in swing you doobie-doobie-doo, and in straight 8th notes or 16th notes you do-do-do-do-do. I thought that was very wise. Doobie-doobie-doo, that's swing. Doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie ice cream, man. Whereas do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, come on, feel the noise, that's heavy metal. It's a shorthand way of looking at it, and I thought that was very wise. Doobie-doobie-doo is swing, and do-do-do-do-do is straight 16th or 8 notes. Kind of heavy metal type rhythm. Remember, these styles are different based on rhythm too, not just the notes. Or the tone you get, or whatever. It's also the rhythms. I'm sure you guys know that, but I'm just repeating it. He also said, Jimmie, just with jazz, just practice swinging your major scale. Play 2-5-1s, and after that, just blow. Just play. Blow is a jazz term for improvise and jam and sound really good at it. He said, swing your major scale, play some 2-5-1s, and after that, just blow. That's concise information. I think it's good. And one thing John Harrelson said that I forgot to say there, he said he said that he played very strong dissonance, very strong tension to very strong consonance, very strong resolve. In other words, he would play something very dissonant, then to something very consonant. He had extremes of dissonance and consonance in his playing. But now back to DJ. So DJ was actually friends with Tommy Lee of Motley Crue. There was a picture of him hanging out with Tommy, arms around each other, whatever, in 1984. And it said, above the picture it said, Dave Alverson with longtime friend Tommy Lee of Motley Crue. And there was a picture of DJ with Motley Crue, hanging out, arms around each other. Motley Crue, Tommy Lee, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool, man. Respect is due. What else did DJ say or teach? I value DJ's opinion about songs and what was going on musically. He would comment about. My teacher was doing the Dance of Maya by the John McLaughlin Mahavishnu Orchestra, and he was practicing it or playing it during my lesson for me or something, and DJ walked in and said, man, that thing is so cool. He really liked it. And by the way, DJ actually did give me some encouragement early on. When I did my recital when I was 16 years old in 1983, I played Eruption in Spanish Fly on electric guitar that was a Fender Music Master. It was a 3/4 scale guitar with no whammy bar, only one pickup, and it was on the neck. just really cheap guitar. Didn't have but in a Spanish Fly. For my recital when I was 16, it was at the Lions Lodge or Lions Club in Upland. And after the gig, DJ just comes up to me, or I come to him, and he goes, "Man, you were blowing." In other words, he was giving me a compliment. He said, "Man, you were blowing." So that's cool. Thanks, DJ. And 40 years later, 43 years later, whatever, thank you. Even my youth minister from church, which I had great disdain for that dude. His name was Brett Toole. And even he went to that gig and smiled at me a little bit because he was in approval of my playing, you know. That kind of blew my head. That was like, I didn't expect that, but whatever. And all the mothers of all the other, students were saying, "Why can't you play like this guy?" Because they're playing like Every Breath She Takes by the Police. And they've been playing 6 or 7 or 8 years, some of them, and I've been playing 1 year or so. I don't know, whatever. That's not the point of this rant, though. So that's DJ. Anything else DJ said? He was very philosophical. For being a guy that didn't like theory, he sure was philosophical. Once he said, "Man, what you see is what depends on your perspective, you know." To an ant, a car is a tire, you know. A car is just ask an ant what a car is. A car is a tire, but to us, a car is a car. Do you look at things from the top down or the bottom up, you know? He was very philosophical, but yet didn't like anyone else to be, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know the whole story there. Anyway, then now let's go on to Chris Brian Chapman. He was a bass player. And he was a really good musician, you know. I heard him play bass one time at the store, and if you can believe this, he was playing Donna Lee by Jaco Pastorius, which is a Charlie Parker tune that Jaco Pastorius played on his first album, and this dude Chris Chapman was playing it just like Jaco. I was like, that's cool, man. He was playing Jaco like in 1984 or something, you know. That guy's good, you know. And one time he stood in for DJ's band because DJ's band was called Polyhedra. That was the name of DJ's band. I always was jealous of that name because it's kind of a math music term. There's such a thing as polygons and polyhedrons in math and geometry, but geometry is math. And he got the name Polyhedra before anyone else did. That was such a bitchin' name, Polyhedra. I mean, come on, that would be so cool to have that name. But of course, you can't because DJ had it first. So Polyhedra was doing a gig. And I would often show up with my recorder to record the shit and go home and learn everything. You know me. If you don't, you do now. So, and Chris was filling in on bass because the bass player couldn't make it or was sick or something. So you got Polyhedra with DJ on guitar, you got Chris Brian Chapman on bass. And I kid you not, I had the tape up until like 20 years ago. I don't know. The tape just wore out and broke and got lost in the trash or something. It doesn't exist anymore. But Chris wailed on that gig. He just cleaned house, man. I mean, he just let all the dogs out. You know, he's like, I'm with Polyhedra. I'm going to just fuck it. I'm just going to play. And he just stole the damn show. It was just turned to solo. He was so fucking great. It was like hearing Jaco do a solo, you know. And I still remember the solo. I'm thinking one of the solos he did that afternoon. Can I mum it to you guys, or did I just mess it up, or just not do it justice? It's a blues jazz type of thing. And he goes like this, something like this. He goes, okay. Something like that. But the way he did it, he added a few more notes at the beginning I didn't get, and plus he's playing it on a bass and I'm just mouthing it 40 years later, and he's got the rhythm behind him and the rhythm of it. I don't think I'm doing it justice. In fact, I'm almost sure I'm not. But I got the real version in my head, and it's so bitchin', that solo he did. He just pulled it off, right? Just improvised that on the fly at the moment, and DJ was like, "Holy shit, this guy just wrote the book," you know. It was a good gig. You know, like I got it on tape, and like I said, I had the tape till about 20 years ago. So anyway, what else did Chris say? Chris actually got on the waiting list, the alternate list, to go to Harvey College because his SAT scores were so good. He was a smart dude, you know, kind of the nerdy dude, but with glasses, but could play. Well, I don't know about glasses, but maybe he did. I don't know. Nerdy guy, but he could play bass like nobody. He could analyze. See, I don't know. Nerd and jazz and music often are one of the same bag. You know, if you're a little nerdy, you know, it helps in music sometimes. You know, it doesn't take away things. You still play. You know, just because you're a nerd doesn't mean you can't do this or that. But it might help you with what you're doing. So, anything else about Chris? Let me think. I'm just trying to think here. Anything else stand out about him? He was a bass player, and he still was a good mentor to me, you know. So, okay, he's still a musician, right? Anyway, love you guys. Peace, love, rock and roll.